Shelley Foose, you're going to find out why she's the first of a great list of Hall of Famers that will be inducted prior to this incredible game, Senior Day, 1 o'clock, Washington and Jefferson. Before we talk about Shelley and the others, this is a very incredible list.
Well, I have to give all the credit to my athletic director. He had the vision of doing this.
This is long overdue, by the way. Congratulations.
Of course it is, because when I was the AD and he was the sports information director, all he told me is we need to have a Hall of Fame. And I had the authority then to just send him back to his room. But now that we have this, okay, it's amazing the amount of interest that this thing builds, and I think it's the right time. I really do, and I mean this in all sincerity. This is Van's baby.
We are going to go through this list, and both of you will have a chance. Let's begin with Shelley.
Yeah, so Shelley, I mean, she was in school with me. We both graduated the same year in '92, and she was a two-sport star, basketball and softball. She's number 5 or 6, I think, in the all-time scoring list still, basketball. She was one of the first really, really good softball players here. It's still the top 10. She's currently the head women's basketball coach at Grove City. So she coached here basketball for a little while at Geneva as well. She was the head softball coach here when Gina was the athletic director, I think, back in the day. Yes. And she was a softball coach, and she actually gave me my first shot as her assistant as a softball coach. But just an amazing athlete, just a two-sport star. When it wasn't rogue to be a two-sport star, she was one.
And let me tell you, one of the first schools to really give that leap of faith to soccer and give those high school student athletes a chance to go and play soccer at this level was Geneva College. And back in the mid-'80s, Mr. Tim Lee happened to be the very first face of soccer. He, too, being enshrined this weekend, right?
Yeah, Tim Lee was actually in school about the time I was, and the soccer program here goes back to being founded by one of our professors. Actually, it was the first coach. And, tonight, we got our guys here at Geneva, playing the people from Grove City. They win this one, they go to Thomas More, they win that one, they're in the tournament. And Coach Dundas did a great job.
It really has. I mean, the program has taken off like crazy. And Tim was the first real star at Geneva College. I mean, 60 plus goals, and graduated as the all-time leading scorer, second all-time currently, but just a tremendous player. And like you said, he was the face of the program for a decade.
All right, now, track and field always been one of my favorites, and you guys have great facilities here. Tell me about Michelle Marchi-Powell.
Again, she was in school at the same time about I was in the early 90s, but just a tremendous all-around athlete. If you know anything about the heptathlon, I mean, that's seven events, and so you have to be pretty adept at a lot of things. She was really a long jumper, has still the school record, indoor, outdoor long jump, triple jump, holds the record by far in the heptathlon. So just a tremendous athlete, and really a no-brainer for the Hall of Fame.
All schools have to do with that foundation, their alumni, and no two people did more as far as the early foundation and building block than Claire and Melba Merriman. That's a name that's synonymous here in Beaver Falls.
And they have built everything for Geneva. They were not only just tremendous people. They gave out of their heart. They gave their lives. We would not be sitting in this facility if it wasn't for them.
Yeah, I mean, when we're sitting in the trophy room, we're sitting in the Merriman Athletic Complex, and so just two people that basically dedicated their life to Geneva College and supporting Geneva students.
Justin Myers, one of the very first experiences I had just to be here to watch his greatness unfold, 96 to 99, still the school's all-time leading passer, 8,446 yards in the air. He is going to be enshrined. That's a pretty incredible mark to still be withstanding 21 years later.
And I think with the offense we're running now, he's safe. What do
Yeah,
you say?
he's safe. I mean,
option. We're not throwing it much.
No, we're not throwing it. He'll be fine.
All right, now, Daryl Patton, tell me about it.
Baseball. I mean, first guy. This is the second year we've done the Hall of Fame, and he's the first baseball player to go in. And we've had a really great history of baseball. A great sitting to your left there, Geneva's baseball star, Gino DeMarco. Held a record for a while until we relinquished it, but. Daryl, all around third baseman, great defensive player, still holds records for slugging percentage and a lot of different things, but he was an NAIA All-American when he was here, so obviously well deserved.
I have always been a fan of Title IX, and I've told people if I had my opportunity to get any kind of tickets to any type of championship, I would select the women's Final Four, the eventual championship game. I love women's basketball. In a broadcast career that has gone on way too long, my only state championship I ever called, 1987, Ohio State. It was the Wellsville Lady Tigers and Vicky Pooley stops at the top of the key and she doesn't know what to do. Well, she throws it up and it misses, okay? And they lose. It was a great effort, though. So once again, I fell short, but I've always had this great connection to women's basketball. And you have Nancy Gary Paxton going in to the Geneva Hall of Fame. Good move on your part.
She was, there's a lot of great athletes on this list, but there are some that are just no-brainers. And Nancy, we retired her jersey a couple years ago here in the field house, and she's just, when you talk about women's basketball, Geneva, she was literally the first grade, scoring just 1,700 points, and still the leader, second all-time in points, first in rebounds, first in steals. She was just a really, really great player. We're really excited. She hasn't been back to the campus in a long time, and she's living out in California these days, but she's coming in this weekend, so we're excited about that.
Listen, everybody talks about Reeve Stadium, and I love it, especially on a rainy night, and you were out there with the raindrops under the lights, nothing better. But Matheny Fieldhouse, man, it just gets the blood pumping. And this guy, incredible time here, 87 to 96, 71% as far as his record, 202.81, Jerry Slocum. And there's a guy who was as intense as they come, but he truly was the face of Geneva basketball for that time.
Without question. He hired me, was the athletic director when I got the football job. He really mentored a young coach, and I thought I knew it all. And then at times I thought he knew nothing. He was a teacher, and I would glean as much advice as I possibly could from him. And he's just had a great career. The impact that he's had on his players, I think, goes underappreciated because he was such a competitor and he won, but his players loved playing for him.
I learned a lot from Jerry. I was a student assistant when I was in student school here, and I traveled with the basketball team. Learned a heck of a lot from him. He just retired from Youngstown State this past year as a Division I head coach, and he's been hanging around the field house a little bit here lately. So we're looking forward to seeing him around more. But again, just a great coach, a great guy.
Time now for the Gene Sullivan Show on 1230 WBVP. That was the very first, next to Larry Matrazo, about the same timeline.
Yes.
Coaches that I did, and I didn't realize if football was stuffed or inflated, to be honest with you. But Gene really guided me, the old Richland coach that beat New Brighton in the playoff game. Wow, it's you and him, but that's the guy, Gene Sullivan. Talk about him.
I mean, he's like my second dad. I mean, he's had such an influence on so many of us. Just the way he carried himself professionally, he carried himself as a man. I can tell you this, as a football coach, I mean, in '87, the teams we had in '88, I was an assistant or a volunteer in '88, '89. I mean, we had it rolling, and then he ended up getting sick. And then he was my assistant. And the job he did as a D-line coach, he produced, I can't tell you, I mean, like 4 or 5 All-Americans that right now they're all calling to be in the Hall of Fame. And it's truthfully, it's the way that this guy understands and coaches. I mean, he is
One of his players at Richland. We got 8 minutes. We're into this interview. Jordan just giving me the high sign, so we have a couple minutes to get all this in. Jack McCurry at Richland here also jumped on that bandwagon talking about this guy. And when Jack McCurry spoke, like Render and others, I just would listen, and believe me, such respect for Gene Sullivan. And I don't think anybody deserves it more than he does. And thank you,
Absolutely.
Coach. Thank you, Coach, for everything you did for me, too. All right, you got to say something about Gene Sullivan.
Yeah, I mean, Gene, he's, Gene, you talk about tough acts to follow. I mean, this guy was here for, 25 years, and Gino had to carry the torch after he left, and he's done an amazing job. And I know Gino, he talks, almost daily about Gene Sullivan and what he meant to him and what he meant to the football program at the Geneva College. I mean, he's a lifer at Geneva College, and he impacted so many, just like Gino has an amazing coaching tree, Gene Sullivan the same way. He impacted so many guys that came and went through Geneva College over the years.
All right, soccer comes into play again. Linda Nienhuis Summer, tell me about it.
Yeah, Linda, I mean, she's currently our head women's soccer coach here at Geneva for the past 10 years. But again, she was here in the early 90s, a true star, really, really good teams back then. She was also an All-American player, graduated with 66 career goals, all-time leading scorer at that point, currently still second. Just a bulldog player. I mean, she would step on your neck to get a goal. And so, I mean, it was fun back then to watch them play. So again, really richly deserved.
Golden Tornadoes linebacker, 239 solo tackles, 75 to 78. Tom Tamilio, tell me about him.
Well, it's interesting because the stats that you read are right, but it was a nose tackle. And when you see the stats as far as the tackles, the hits, it's just mind-boggling that a nose tackle actually made that many plays. Tom ended up going as a free agent to the Steelers, and it's just his productivity. He was a biology major. I know him personally. I really think that Tommy could be a CEO of a large company. He's that brilliant, and as a football player, he was legit. Anybody that played on that team with him, against him, will say it.
All right, this is a basketball name. Stan Ukika. Tell me about him. 53, till like 56.
The Midland Flash, right back there. I mean, you talk about the golden era of Geneva basketball.
Is that your nickname, or do they call him that?
No,
That's pretty
I
good.
think that's my nickname. But,
I like that.
But the mid-50s, I mean, this team went to the NAIA National Tournament 4 consecutive years. Cliff Altman was their coach. Just Hall of Famer after Hall of Famer on that team. Stan was the only member of that team to start every single game of his 4-year career. And he's the only member of that four teams that went to the national tournament, and still 6th all-time scoring. And just a great player and a great representative of what Geneva College basketball is.
Listen, if you're an alumni or you're just a fan of anything that is good, you should be here to give these folks a nice round of applause. I love this. I hope this is the start of a great tradition, and it really is nice to mention some of the names that are so familiar with this great learning institution that's all about faith and family. And now for Gino DeMarco and Van Zandt, who happens to be the athletic director, I am Rob Pratt. I got my Sheets coffee and I'm going home. Have a great night, everybody.